She has the #1 album on Nielsen SoundScan right now. Would you please make welcome Lindsay Ell? I think you're supposed to be hardwired, which would be this one.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. How's it going?
It's nice to finally get you out here.
Tell me about it. It's so good to be here. And I love that we're sitting at a table with wings. That's awesome.
They're for you.
It's really all about the wings.
Then I'll have hot sauce all over my face.
Yeah, and these
That'll
are
be perfect.
probably been out here for like 20-some minutes, so I don't actually recommend that. I'm sorry.
I will totally eat one after for sure.
All right.
Congratulations on your album. As Pat was just mentioning, #1, not only on SoundScan, but I think iTunes. I just saw that it's like #4 on the New York Times.
It's pretty
best-selling all genre albums.
Yeah.
Is obviously you go into any of these projects. The album's called The Project, but you go into this with expectations. Is this exceeding all of your expectations?
100%. I, didn't even know if we were going to be top 10, let alone be #1. And, the day the album got released, Kesha was #1 on the all genre charts, and we were #2 at the time. And she posted this picture on her Instagram page, and it had her as #1 and me as #2. And I was like, Kesha just kind of promoted my album.
Wow.
That's really crazy.
That's awesome.
So it's just been amazing to see fans fall in love with the music as much as we have. And I mean, I feel like parts of this album have been 16 years in the making. And, the music pieces have really come together in the past year with me and my producer, Mr. Christian Bush from Sugarland. And so it just feels like something that I've been wanting to release for so long. And it feels so surreal and amazing to finally have it out.
And you have been working a long time. You're 28. You're new to a lot of people, but you have been working, like Pat said, since you were 13 years old on this. And one of the things that I think a lot of artists go through is when you're younger, you're trying to figure out who you are. Can you talk about how Christian Bush really helped helped you discover who you are as an artist? What did he do? I've never heard of this happen before.
He gave me so many little experiments from our first music meeting until really the last day of tracking. And that's why I called the record The Project, because I felt like it was a science project. I felt like it was me finding out who I am. And yes, it's hard as an artist sometimes to figure out your identity, which sounds so easy. It's like you should just be able to put on a microphone and go. But it's kind of a task sometimes. So Christian asked me, he's like, Lindsay, what's your favorite record of all time? And I was like, well, Christian, that would be Continuum by John Mayer. And he's like, I know, right? He's like, perfect. I want you to go record the whole thing. And I was like, what?
Like every song on there?
Like every song. And he's like, your only rules are you have 2 weeks, you need to play all the instruments, and you need to do it by yourself at your studio at the label. So I was like, okay, Christian Bush. So I cleared my schedule. And for the next 14 days, 8 a.m. till 3 a.m., I re-recorded Continuum, my favorite record of all time. And I thought
and he didn't tell you why. You're just doing this blind faith.
No, exactly. I'm like, yes, completely blind, going into the night, just trusting him as a producer. But he's brilliant, and I call him like Yoda in the studio. So I was like, he has to have some sort of, point to this. And at the end of 2 weeks, I hand him this disc that we call the Continuum Project, which I think we may release later this year. But we wanted to get this record out first. And I was like, Christian, I am blown away. I've learned so much about the way John Mayer plays guitar. I've learned so much of the way I play guitar. And most importantly, I learned so much about the way I love to hear a band recorded in the studio. It was the most fascinating thing that a producer has ever had me do. Take music that you love and recreate it in your own voice. And then what you hear coming out of the speakers is the way you love to listen to music.
And that was just a perspective that you had never looked at it from before?
Never. I normally would put 30 different instruments on a song in the studio and have this like big production and it sounding great. And I really, through this whole process, realized that I love like 5. And sometimes simplicity is a great thing, and just all the parts that are there need to mean more. And so it was completely an eye-opening experience, and really gave us the sound for the record.
I think it's interesting that you probably had the answers before he asked you the question when that was done.
Very much so. Absolutely. He just laughed from my amazement, and he's like, well, Lindsay, now it's time to do this with your own music.
That's cool. Now, you're from Calgary.
Born and raised, yeah.
Okay. The Nashville Predators had a great season.
They did.
Was there any thought as to bringing you out to sing the Canadian national anthem during the playoffs?
I mean, I hope there was thought for that for sure. I have definitely sang both anthems at some Preds games in the past where a Canadian team comes down. So it's so much fun to be there at Bridgestone Arena. I mean, from a hockey town, now living in Nashville for 8 years in a hockey town, it's amazing just to see like that spirit on game day. You know, it's infectious.